It was just another early morning at Hillside Memorial Hospital. The ER hallway buzzed with the soft hum of overhead fluorescent lights. Nurses tapped away at computer terminals. The smell of coffee lingered in the air as Dr. Evelyn Ramirez sipped. From her third cup of the morning, reading a routine case chart, outside, a heavy fog clung to the ground, muffling the world in quiet gray. There were no alarms, no sirens, just the mundane rhythm of beeping monitors and shuffling footsteps. Still, the automatic doors opened without the usual paramedic fanfare. At first, no one looked up. Then came the thud. A small, staggering figure collapsed just inside the entrance. Crumpling to the floor like a marionette with its strings cut, gasps echoed across the lobby. Evelyn dropped her clipboard. Code blue front entrance. A nurse shouted, rushing toward the girl. She was no older than 11. Her clothes were torn, filthy, soaked in blood. One shoe was missing. Her skin was pale beneath layers of dirt and bruises. Her arms clutched her abdomen as though holding something in her lips. Moved silently, breath shallow and shaky. Her eyes, wide brown, terrified, fluttered open for just a second before rolling back, then a growl. It was low, deep, feral behind the girl. Stepping through the automatic doors as if it knew exactly where it was going was a dog, large, imposing, and covered in mud and scratches. Its coat, once a rich golden brown, was now streaked with grime and blood. Around its neck was a worn leather collar, and strapped to its back was a shredded canine vest. Its patch barely legible, Unit K9 to 214. The hospital fell silent. No one moved. The dog stood over the girl's body, ears pinned, hackles raised, eyes locked on the nearest nurse. Is that a police dog? Someone whispered. Evelyn took a careful step forward. Easy, boy, she murmured. The German shepherd growled again, standing like a statue guarding sacred ground. Then the girl let out a quiet groan. Instantly, the dog's posture changed. It turned to her, whimpered, and gently licked her cheek. A collective breath was held. That wasn't aggression. That was worry, protection. The ER security guard took a cautious step forward. We need to move her. The dog snapped its head up, lips curling. No sudden movements, Evelyn ordered. Let me try. She knelt slowly beside them. The girl's face was ghost white. Her pulse was weak. Evelyn gently touched her wrist. The dog sniffed her hand, growled low, and then stepped back just a paces. Close enough to leap, far enough to allow help. Evelyn looked around. Gurney now. 2 nurses dashed off. One returned within seconds, wheels squealing. As they lifted the girl, the dog moved with them, pacing like a shadow. When they tried to close the doors to Trauma Room 3, it blocked the path, refusing to stay behind. She needs surgery now, Evelyn said. That dog can't come in. The dog barked once, short, sharp, commanding, like a warning. Let it in, Evelyn said, surprising herself. It's not leaving her. They rolled her into the trauma bay. The dog followed inside. Chaos erupted. In controlled precision, monitors beeped, gloves snapped on, saline was hooked up. A nurse cut away the girl's torn sweatshirt beneath it. 3 gashes, deep and ragged, stretched from her ribs to her side. A puncture wound above her hip was still bleeding. Possible internal bleeding, Evelyn muttered. Vitals dropping. We need to stabilize now. The dog sat just inside the corner, watching, unmoving. Time blurred. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Then the girl's breathing steadied. Her color returned. The bleeding slowed. Only then did the dog lie down. In the waiting area outside the trauma bay, staff were still reeling. There's no ID on her. No phone. Nothing, said Nurse Clara. We don't even know her name. And the dog asked Dr. Patel, whose is it? Vest says K9 214, but that code doesn't match any active units in our district. I checked. Security replayed the camera footage. The scene was surreal, a girl appearing out of the mist collapsing, followed by a lone dog limping behind. Her gaze fixed forward, never looking back. She wasn't dropped off, the guard said. No car, no witnesses, nothing. They came on foot, from where Evelyn walked into the observation lounge, peeling off her gloves. She looked exhausted but alert. She's stable, for now. Needs rest, likely trauma-induced shock, severe blood loss. She hasn't woken up yet, and the dog. Someone asked, It hasn't moved from her side, Evelyn said. Growled at the janitor for getting too close, but it listens. Sort of. It knows she's safe now. Just then, the ER phone rang. Reception answered, then held the receiver. To her chest, "It's the police. They want to know if we had a child brought in tonight." Everyone turned. "Tell them yes," Evelyn said. "But there's something else they need to know." Inside the girl's recovery room, moonlight filtered through the blinds. The girl lay still, her breathing now quiet and even. Machines beeped in rhythm beside her bed. The German Shepherd lay at her feet, eyes half closed but alert. Every few minutes, it lifted its head, looked at her face, and then settled again. It hadn't barked in over an hour, but it hadn't left either. Outside the room, a nurse watching through the window whispered, "It's like it won't rest until she wakes up." Clara stepped forward. "Or maybe until she tells us who they are." Flash to black. The night deepened, but the questions only grew by 2 a.m. Hillside Memorial Hospital had become a silent capsule of mystery. In room 3B, under dim lighting and the rhythmic hum of machines, the young girl remained unconscious. No name, no guardian, no answers. Outside the glass-panelled door, Nurse Clara sat in a rolling chair, a styrofoam cup of coffee trembling slightly in her hands. Her eyes weren't on the monitors, they were on the dog. The German Shepherd, still caked in dried mud, and streaks of old blood lay curled near the foot of the girl's hospital bed. Every time a staff member entered, it watched with an unnerving stillness, eyes sharp, head low. It growled softly at the janitor again earlier that hour only when his mop came too close. The dog hadn't eaten, hadn't left, it hadn't slept, at least not deeply, as though its very soul was tethered to the girl's breath. Clara pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "K9 to 214, she muttered. "There's no current record. Not in our county. Not in the state database." Paused. Her screen flashed an old article almost 3 years old. "Covert K9. Unit decommissioned after failed rescue attempt." The photo was grainy, but there front and center stood a German Shepherd that looked hauntingly familiar. The same eyes, same posture. The caption read, "K9 to 214. Dog presumed lost during Black Hollow mission." Clara stared, mouth dry. Oh my God. But before she could say anything, the girl began to stir. At first, it was a twitch fingers curling under the white sheets, then a groan, then eyes. Brown, wide, glassy, with confusion and fear. Her chest rose quickly as panic gripped her small frame. She tried to sit up, but winced, clutching her bandaged side. Alarms didn't go off, but Clara rushed in. Hey, sweetie, it's okay. You're safe. You're in a hospital. We're helping you." The girl's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. Then they locked onto the dog dot in an instant. Her breathing slowed. The shepherd rose, padded silently to the side of the bed, and placed his front paws gently on the mattress. Girl's hand found his neck instinctively. Fingers dug into the coarse fur. Clara had seen that look before, not in children, but in war veterans. That look of shared survival. "Can you tell me your name?" she asked gently. The girl didn't respond. "Can you write it?" No response. But the girl didn't look confused. She looked like she had chosen not to speak. Clara stepped out of the room and whispered to Evelyn, "She's awake, but she's silent. Voluntarily, I think." Evelyn frowned. Selective. Mutism, maybe. Or maybe trauma has her clamped shut. Either way, that dog he's the key. She won't let go of him. The following morning, 2 detectives arrived. Detective Ross, older and hardened, and Detective Innes, younger but sharp-eyed. "We were told she walked in alone," Ross asked, flipping open his notebook. "No witnesses, no ID, but a military dog." Clara nodded. "No one dropped her off, no adults, no prints in the system. And this dog dash he single quotes S ... different. Like he was trained for something serious. But the code on his vest doesn't match any current units." They entered the room. The girl flinched as they stepped in. Her grip on the dog's collar tightened. The shepherd raised his head, growling low. "You're not in trouble. We just want to know who you are and how you ended up here." Still Silence Innes reached into her coat and pulled out a small notepad and a pencil. "Can you draw?" The girl looked at the paper. then at Innes, then slowly nodded. Over the next half hour, the girl sketched. No words, no sound, just pictures. 1. A cabin surrounded by trees. 2. A man with a beard and a rifle. 3. A bright burst of fire ant explosion. 4. The dog. Standing over her, her hand hesitated, then added 5. Her bleeding, crawling, the dog pulling at her sleeve. Everyone in the room was silent. That's how she got here, said he led her. Clara watched, goosebumps rising. They've been through something. Brutal. The girl looked up and made eye contact. For the first time, she pointed to the drawing of the cabin. Innes pulled out her phone. Satellite records, maybe there's a remote area matching that description. And cross-check survivalist groups. Militias, anything. Ross looked at the vest on the dog. Let's dig into the Black Hollow case. That dog might be one of theirs. Black Hollow, Clara asked. What's that? Ross hesitated. A federal mission covert. 3 years ago, a failed extraction in the Smoky Mountains. They lost 2 agents and a canine unit. Case was sealed. The dog was presumed dead. He looked into the room again, and yet here he is. That night, Clara stayed late. She brought a tray with soup, crackers, and a bowl of dog kibble. The girl didn't touch her food, but she broke the crackers in half and fed them to the dog piece by piece. His name, do you know it? Clara asked softly. The girl hesitated, then pulled the drawing pad back. She scribbled for shaky letters. Riggs, Clara whispered. That's his name. The dog's ears perked up at the sound. The girl nodded. Clara smiled, eyes stinging. I think he saved your life. And the girl, still silent, reached across the bed and took Clara's hand. Outside, the fog returned, but this time there was light inside. Inside room 3B, a wounded girl with no name and a canine dog from a mission no one remembered had found each other again, and somehow found a way back to life.
It had been nearly 24 hours since the girl first arrived, and still, no one knew her name. She hadn't spoken a single word, not to the detectives, not to the nurses, not even to herself. But she had spoken volumes through the one constant. By her side, the German shepherd named Riggs, and Riggs had not moved. The hospital had never seen anything like it. Administrators debated whether to allow the dog to stay in the room. Infection risk, liability, policy violations arguments flew across shift changes and email chains. But every nurse, every technician, and even a few doctors knew the truth. That dog was her lifeline. When they had tried to move him the first time, 2 orderlies approached him with gentle voices and slow steps. One brought a leash. The moment the strap clicked near the collar, Riggs growled, low and guttural. The girl's heart monitor spiked. She reached for him, silent but urgent. They backed off. Riggs resumed his post. Eventually, they stopped trying. Instead, they found ways to work around him. Nurse Clara became the go-to. She'd started spending more time in the room, observing, charting, and oddly talking to the dog, as though he understood. Maybe he did. Riggs, she said one afternoon, crouching beside him, you know, you're kind of the hero of the building now. Riggs blinked once. His eyes never left the girl. Clara glanced at her patients, still silent, still small beneath the tangled blankets, but stronger. Her color had returned. She ate small meals. She responded with nods and drawings. And she never once let go of that dog. We've all seen therapy dogs before, Clara whispered. But you're more than that, aren't you? Word of the mysterious arrival had begun to spread. It started with a tweet. A little girl came into Hillside last night with a canine that saved her life. No one knows who she is. The dog won't leave her side. Then came the Reddit thread. Then the news crews. By the 3rd day, reporters waited outside the hospital. Cameras at the ready. Who is the silent girl and the mysterious canine? Former government dog reappears in dramatic rescue. Is this the hero of the Black Hollow disaster? Inside, the hospital became a sanctuary under siege. Detective Innes watched the coverage from a laptop in the staff break room. Her fingers tapped rapidly over the keyboard. There's something off, she said to Ross. This isn't just a missing kid or a wandering animal. Ross glanced at her. What do you mean? I requested satellite mapping from the fire department. Thermal scans. There was a fire 3 nights ago in a remote area west of Riverdale. Cabin-sized structure, burned to the ground. And no response team ever filed a report. It's like no one wanted it known. Ross narrowed his eyes. You think she came from there? I think she escaped from there. Back in room 3B, the girl was drawing again. This time, the image was clearer. The cabin again. But now, a basement, a cage, chains, a group of children. Clara's stomach twisted as she studied the lines. She looked at the girl. Were you held there? The girl didn't answer, but she reached over to Riggs and pressed her forehead to his side. But was answer enough? Clara rushed to the hallway. She wasn't just lost, she was taken, and that dog, he didn't find her. He stayed with her. Later that evening, Evelyn made a quiet request. They had to try one more time. A local vet had been contacted to assess Riggs. He was malnourished, dehydrated, with multiple untreated wounds, none life-threatening, but severe enough that treatment was needed. They arranged a small mobile unit outside her room, but when the vet entered, carrying gauze and ointments, Riggs rose sharply. The growl returned. "Let me try," Clara said quickly. Alone, she stepped in, holding nothing but a single soft command. "Riggs, buddy, you're safe now." "She's safe. Let us help you." She crouched low, extending a hand. Riggs stared, then padded slowly toward her. He sat down. The room stood still. The girl gave the faintest smile. Clara knelt beside him. With careful hands, she cleaned his wounds, wrapped his leg, dabbed the bite marks on his side. He winced but never pulled away. He allowed it, because she allowed it. By day 4, it was impossible to keep the media away. The hospital released a single statement. "The young girl is recovering well. She is in protective care. The dog, now confirmed as a retired K9 unit, is stable and remains with her. Investigation is ongoing." That night, Clara sat beside her, watching her sketch again. This time the girl didn't draw cages, or fire, or fear. She drew the dog, strong, proud, standing between her and something. Dark, a guardian. She handed it to Clara, and for the first time the girl whispered, just one word: home. Clara felt the breath catch in her throat. "You want to go home?" she asked. The girl nodded, and pointed to the drawing of the dog. Not a place, not a building, but the one who had never left her side. Riggs. He was home. The sun rose over Hillside Memorial Hospital with the weight of 1,000 questions hanging in the air. Outside, news vans continued to multiply. Reporters with microphones braved the early cold, repeating versions of the same mystery to viewers. Across the country, a girl with no name, a dog with no unit, a bond that defies reason. Who are they? Inside, in room 3B, the girl, still silent to most, had begun communicating more clearly through her sketches. Her recovery had stabilized, but the wounds inside her ran deeper than anything stitched by a surgeon. And her protector, Riggs, remained where he'd always been, at her side. The investigation DEAPN, as detectives Ross and Innes sat across from a DHS liaison in a private meeting room. "We've run facial recognition scans," the liaison said. "No matches. Nothing in missing children databases, at least. Not under her current appearance." "She may have been off the grid for years," Innes said, glancing at a printed photo of the girl holding Riggs' head in her lap. Ross spoke up. "What about the dog?" The liaison hesitated. "That is the part you're not going to like." "What do you mean?" "That K9 Riggs was part of a covert program under Homeland. Specialized animal-human tracking operations and high recovery missions. Black Hollow was our most classified mission. Riggs was assigned to a handler named Agent Kyle Maddox." Ross leaned forward. "What happened to Maddox?" "He died, burned alive in the Black Hollow fire 2 years ago. We presumed Riggs died with him." "He didn't," Innes said flatly. "No, he didn't," the liaison said quietly, "which means someone covered up his survival." The girl's WORLD. That same afternoon, Clara entered room 3B to find the girl awake, drawing intently. On the page, 3 children in a basement surrounded by wooden crates. Chains lay on the floor. A heavy door padlocked. In the corner, a black silhouette, clearly a man, tall, bearded, angry. Clara sat gently on the edge of the bed. "Were there others with you?" The girl nodded. Double quotes. "Where are they now?" She paused, then slowly drew flames licking up from the basement doorway. Clara's stomach dropped. "Did the fire?" The girl didn't finish the answer. She just closed the notebook and buried her face into Riggs' neck. Outside the door, Evelyn whispered, "That drawing? She was part of something much darker than we thought." "She was held captive," Clara said, "probably for years. And Riggs, he must have survived that fire and stayed behind, watching her, protecting her, waiting for the right moment to escape." The past comes to LIJHT back at the precinct. Innes dug through years of archived reports. She found a name. Jeremiah Boone, a known survivalist leader who had gone off the radar 3 years ago. Suspected of recruiting minors for anti-government indoctrination. Never caught. Then she cross-referenced it with a 911 call made 3 nights prior. Flagged for firesighting with shouting. It had been dismissed due to no verified structure. On the map, she printed a satellite image. Scorched earth. Foundation remnants. Ash. She laid it on the desk next to the girl's drawing. It was a match. "We found the compound," she said. Ross looked grim. "Get search teams out there. Now." The legend of Arai. Just that evening, word began to spread online that the dog's identity had been confirmed. K9 to 214. Calcine Riggs status. Presumed dead. Now hero. Old footage surfaced. Riggs in training, running through obstacle courses, locating hostages, and even being lowered from helicopters. Comment flooded in. "I remember this dog. He was incredible. He survived all that and stayed with her. We don't deserve dogs like this. The hospital lobby was overwhelmed with flower deliveries, toys, handwritten letters. One child mailed a drawing of a superhero dog and wrote, "To Riggs, the bravest dog in the world." And in room 3B, Riggs slept with his head across the girl's legs. Unaware that millions of people now knew his name. A moment of truth on day 6. Clara brought in a box of crayons and set it beside the girl's bed. "Would you like to write something?" she asked. The girl nodded hesitantly. She picked up a green crayon, wrote a single word on the page, and turned it toward Clara, double quotes, "Hope. Double quotes." Clara blinked back tears. "That's your name." The girl shook her head and pointed to the dog. Clara smiled softly. "He gave you hope." Then, for the first time, the girl whispered, "Riggs saved me." The room went silent. Evelyn, standing in the doorway, exhaled slowly. They had their answer. The world now knew his name, Riggs, and the little girl he protected, still unnamed by law, but known by millions as Hope, had begun to whisper the truth. Bit by bit, her silence unraveled, revealing a horror few could imagine, and a loyalty no one could comprehend. Back to the BGI and ING 2 days after her whisper, Hope allowed Clara and Detective Innes to record a session using drawings and a whiteboard. She pointed to her newest sketch, a small girl surrounded by other children in a room, with no windows, lit only by lanterns. "Were you there alone?" Innes asked. Hope shook her head. She tapped each child. She had drawn 6 in total and wrote initials beneath them: C, J, me, L, T, and B. "Do you know where they are now?" Hope's hand hesitated. She wrote, "Some died in the fire." Innes lowered her voice, "And the man, the one in the drawings with the beard." Hope wrote again. Boone, Evelyn, Clara, and Innes exchanged stunned looks. They now had a name to link to the site: Jeremiah Boone, the survivalist leader believed dead after a standoff in 2022. He wasn't just alive. He had been running a child compound in the woods. "Did he hurt you?" Hope wrote. One word, "Yes." And then she added a heart. Inside it, she drew the dog. "He protected you, didn't he?" Hope nodded, eyes filling with tears. The rescue that failed, and the dog that SDO'd while Hope slept. Innes met with DHS agents and special operations advisors in a federal office downtown. They laid out classified documents, redacted, briefings, and grainy body cam footage from the Black Hollow raid in 2022. "They went in for Boone," said an agent. Multiple agencies had been tracking him for years. He'd created a bunker compound in the Smoky Mountains. No internet, no electricity. Taught kids that the government was the enemy. No formal education. Psychological reprogramming. She handed over a photograph. It was Riggs, standing next to Agent Kyle Maddox, both kitted for field operations. This was Maddox's last mission. They tried to extract the children. Riggs was sent ahead to locate them. He found 4, but then Boone detonated the lower level. It collapsed the hallway. Maddox never made it out. Riggs disappeared. Innes asked, "So why wasn't Riggs recovered later?" "The fire made it unreachable for weeks, and Boone faked his own death using a burned body and a forged ID. We didn't know anyone survived, let alone that the dog stayed behind." "Stayed for over 2 years," Innes murmured, "and didn't just survive." The agent added, "He protected her. He waited until she was old enough, strong enough, to run." The night of SDP later that week, Hope woke up in the middle of the night. Clara found her standing near the window, watching the city lights flicker across the glass. She pointed to the notebook and whispered, "I can tell it now." With shaky hands and short, halting phrases, she spoke for the first time in full sentences. "We ran because he found us again, Boone. He came back. He said we'd been weak. Said Riggs was cursed. He locked us in the basement. He said if we didn't change, we'd burn." Then the fire started. Clara knelt beside her, heart pounding. "Riggs got the door open. He dragged me out. My arm was bleeding. I don't know how we got through the woods. I passed out. But he found this place. The hospital." She turned and looked Clara in the eyes. "I would have died. He didn't let me." Clara wrapped her arms around her and whispered, "You're safe now." And for the first time, Hope didn't flinch. A nation responded by day 9. The country had fallen in love with the story. The headlines changed. The canine who waited, burned but not broken. Girl survives 2-year captivity with help of forgotten canine. Hope and Riggs, a story America needed. Donations poured in, so many that the hospital created a fund in Hope's name to support rescued children and retired canines. People sent letters, plush dogs, books, even drawings of Riggs in superhero capes. Riggs was no longer just a war dog. He was a symbol. Legal RACOGNITO. That same week, a family court judge ordered an emergency guardianship hearing to assign Hope a legal identity. Clara was asked if she would testify. She didn't hesitate. Inside the courtroom, the judge peered over his glasses at Hope, who now sat quietly beside Riggs. "And what name do you wish to be known by?" Hope looked at Clara, then back at the judge, and said, for the first time, "Hope Maddox." Everyone froze. The judge blinked. "Maddox? As in Kyle Maddox, the agent?" Hope nodded. He died trying to save us. Riggs was his, and now, I'm his too. Clara's heart shattered and healed in the same moment. With tears in his eyes, the judge smiled. Then, by the power of this court, I grant legal guardianship of Hope Maddox to Nurse Clara Bennett, and recognition of her identity moving forward. Riggs barked once as if in approval. The final PIC at the hospital staff, detectives, and even Clara had one last question. Why did Riggs never run, never give up? Innes approached a military dog behaviorist who reviewed the case and explained. It's simply Riggs was trained to locate and protect human life above all else. When the mission failed, the handler died, and the team pulled out. He defaulted to his last command, protect the child. For 2 years, he never abandoned that order. Food, no handler, no plan, just pure loyalty.